when it starts to get warm. So thank you all for tuning in on The Divide. We are here in your ear. We are the #1 conservative talk show in all upstate New York and all New York. Let's make it the whole country. So please, please, please hit that like button, hit subscribe. It doesn't cost you nothing. Share it on your page, some of your friends' pages, wherever you can, so we can have the important conversations together. And if you want to be part of the conversation, drop a comment below. And if you're on the radio, make sure you tell your friends, your family, and everybody else on Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. Tune into The Divide on WRFZ LP 106.3 FM, Rochester Free Radio. So let's get into it, you guys. Hit some hearts, drop some American flags in the comments. Let me know you're out there. And if you drop a comment, I'll do my best to pop it up on the screen. Thank you guys for tuning into The Divide. Man, have you been paying attention to what's been going on the world stage lately? I just was watching recently, a couple minutes ago, the president came out and he was talking about Iran and Cuba and the Democrats and a little bit of everything. You know, he was here, he was there, he was everywhere, all at one time. But something that was really of note that the president said is, as far as Iran goes, he said, you know, it was jacked up that Iran was letting a whole bunch of ships that were doing business go through the Strait of Hormuz with them. But if they weren't doing business with Iran, they wouldn't let any of the ships through. And he said, that's wrong. And he said, if that's the way that they want to play, we're going to lock down the whole strait and we're only going to let the people go through that aren't doing business with Iran. I said, that's wild. He said, you know, I'm the captain now. He didn't say that, but that's essentially what he said. You know, Iran said, well, we're going to do a blockade. He said, well, I'm going to do my own blockade because we're America and that's what we do. And that's kind of been what the issue with Iran has been. You know, we've got a number of different people in the Iranian government that nobody knows who's in charge, right? So this is something similar to what happened in Gaza, right? And it's a different situation, but a similar situation. When Israel was going in there and attacking and blowing up Gaza and stuff like that, they said, well, you know, it's the terrorist group that's over there that's got all of the citizens from Israel and we need to free them and this, that, and the third and blah, 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 blah. Well, but the people that, hey, I see you out there, but the people that actually had the kidnapped people from Israel, it was like 20 different groups. So they're like, yeah, it's Hamas who has all the people, but it wasn't just Hamas. It was all these other different little ragtag groups, all vying for different bits of power, all vying for their own little bit of power so that they can control their little territory, right? And this is what happened. And what did Israel say? Israel just conflated them all together. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now as the whole infrastructure in Iran goes, as far as the people who were in power. President's gone, Ayatollah's gone, most of the cabinet is gone, most of the security force is gone, head of the police is gone, national police, they have national police over there, head of the police is gone, head of the army is gone, everybody's gone. Gone, dead. So what happened? So all we saw that happen is a whole bunch of different groups that were part of the whole, I guess you would say, institutional system, then broke off into little factions, and some more extreme than the others. And this, I think, is something that needs to be noted because people don't understand how serious a lot of this is. When you have so many different groups vying for power, nobody really is in power. It's who has the biggest stick, right? Who can control the most? Who can keep people in line? And this is what we have to recognize. So when Trump says, oh, well, we're negotiating with people here, we're talking to these people there, it's a whole bunch of different people, right? Like it's who they think right now at this point will have the largest amount of power in the area, right? So right now, I don't know who's in power over there. The president isn't telling us who's in power over there. And the question is do they even really know, or is it a consistent fight and turmoil every single day? We ran into the fact that the second that we were negotiating with people, we had prearranged stuff with people to take power after the government was toppled, after the big heads were taken out. But the second that we were going to do that, we had Israel go over there and blow everybody up. Well, we didn't have them. They did that on their own prerogative because, of course, why would they want the war over there to stop? It doesn't hurt them none. The weaker that they are, the better it is for Israel, right? So there's a lot of self-interest that Israel put into that situation that was actually harmful to the plan of the United States of America. And that's why we're still over there in an engagement right now. We're not over there because Trump is bad and all of this and all of that. We're over there because Israel, okay, did what it always does and serves itself. Right? Its priority is itself. And I believe very firmly that the American people's priority and the American government's priority needs to be ourself. We need to start focusing on ourself more because Israel's always out there getting us into some trouble, causing problems for us because they're out there looking for their best interests. And that's something that we have to understand. It's not about us. And speaking of self-interest, and we'll come back here in a minute to the Iran situation, because I do want to talk about the blockade more, but I want to talk about what's going on in Hungary with Viktor Orban. So Viktor Orban was the president of Hungary for like 16 years. He's been in power over there. And some people say, oh, well, he's right wing and this and that, and he's conservative and this and that and the third. I liked him, but I didn't live under him, so I can't tell you fully. But what I can tell you is that the European Union is a big bully and they need to be broken up. You know, the European Union is one of the biggest bullies that there is, and they're globalists. So they try to bully smaller countries like Moldova, like Hungary, like Slovenia, or is it Slovakia now? I don't know. You know, the names change every 10 years. Who can even keep track? But in all of these other littler countries that kind of want to have some business dealings with Russia because Russia supplies a lot of energy for them, right? Russia has closer ties to them because it gives them the ability to have more freedom. When you're in the European Union, even though you're your own nation, you don't really have much say in what goes on. And the European Union, what's her name, Lagarde or Lagarde or whatever her face is, I can see it right in front of my face right now. Her name is slipping my head. I can't stand her though. And the other guy that's the head of the European Union, both are trash. They're both terrible. But they are out there and they'll tell you that they do whatever they want, even though your country is its own region. This is why Brexit happened and why England pulled away from them, because they felt like they were being manipulated, like they were being underserved, and like their voices as a country were not being heard. And that's a very, very, very serious situation. And I think that more than anything, we really need to have a conversation about that. And we need to talk about the breakup of the European Union, because they're nothing but globalist trash garbage. That's a whole fact, you know, and they bully the smaller countries that are in Europe to try to force them to come into the fold and then give them almost no way to get out. They did this with Hungary. So what happened with Hungary and what really ended up driving Orban out? So you've got George Soros and that other guy, I forget his name, Herner, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but it's like a German-Austrian name. So, but anyway, you had these guys that are really ultra wealthy trying to basically overthrow the government in Hungary. They did it in Moldova. They did it in Slovenia. Is that Slovenia? I forget what it is actually called. So drop it in the comments if it's not the name of the country now, whatever it is. They've also got the situation with Moldova, and now Moldova wants to be part of that. Like they want to the president of Moldova now wants to give up the autonomy of their nation and combine with another nation. And even though it's not popular in Moldova with her countrymen, because Moldova has had historic ties to Russia, but even though it's not popular with her countrymen, she's like, yeah, we're just going to give up our whole country and become part of another country. Like, who are these crazy people that are being installed over there? And why are we not able to have a conversation about that? I think that this is very concerning, seeing the tighter grip of the European Union, which, as far as I'm concerned, and anybody with eyes can see, they are just the rebirth of the Nazi Germany. You know, this is exactly what they are. And you can say whatever you want, but look at what Germany wanted to do. What did Germany want to do? Unite Europe under one banner, right? What did the European do? Unite all of Europe under one banner. That's the same thing that the Germans wanted, right? Oh, they wanted there to be easy transition of mobility between all the nations, and you didn't have to have a specialized passport for the area or whatever. Wait, they have that in the European Union. Oh, they wanted to further integrate all of the markets and stuff together, and oh wait, that's the same thing that the Nazis wanted to do. So essentially, it's just the rebirth of the Nazi Empire come again another time, and people don't look at it like that. But if anybody were to come from there to now, as far as and see the policies outside of the ridiculous immigration stuff, they'd be like, yeah, that's about right. And that's a serious issue. And there needs to be a serious conversation about that at some point. So when we look at the United Nations and what Europe's doing in the United Nations, and when we look at what's going on in the, what do you call it, NATO, and what's going on in NATO and how the U.S. is being underserved, it's no wonder the U.S. is pissed off at NATO, right? I can't stand NATO. I never have. I don't like globalist world powers. There can only be one world power, and that's the United States of America. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you call me an imperialist. I don't care if you call me, what is the other word? What is it? Is it jingoist or whatever the case is? All of those things. I don't even care. Because the fact of the matter is there can only be one. If you guys ever saw the movie, the one with Jet Li, there can only be one, and it can only be the United States. So anybody that gets in the way of the United States, gets in the way of what's best for America or whatever, we need to shed them like a old piece of skin off our body. They need to go. And NATO is exactly what that is. And let's be honest, we have military pacts and treaties with almost all of these countries that are part of NATO. So what do we need NATO for? Putting in millions and millions and trillions of dollars into NATO, and what are we getting? You understand what I'm saying? We already have military pacts with these people. Why do we need to be paying for NATO? Think on that. Drink water, stay hydrated. Drop a comment below, and we'll try to pop it up on the screen as we go, be part of the conversation. And we'll come back to the Europe thing in a minute, because it's going to matter once we dig more into this. So what we've got going on with the Iran situation and the blockade there is very interesting, right? Because, well, what is going on in trade? There's a lot of different ships that go through there, right? Doing different things and stuff like that. But largely it's about oil right there. Largely it's about oil. Of course, it's about some international trade of goods and stuff like that, but largely it's about oil. So where are these countries getting these ships from that are going in there? Where are they going to? A lot of the oil from there is going all the way to Europe. A lot of the oil there is going all the way to Asia. A lot of the oil there is going all the way around the globe, right? So the United States mostly doesn't get our oil from there. So we're not hurting at all. And it's very interesting, and I'll bring this back to something I said the week prior, how these speculators raise the price of the oil that's already pumped in tankers and everything. You know what I'm saying? So people are like, oh, well, the price is going up on gas. And so why? Why is the price going up on gas? This isn't newly refined gas. This is gas that's already, even you see it change from day to day, but that's gas that's already in the ground, that's already been paid for, that's already been allocated for, and they're raising the price on that. Why is that? Can we talk about that? That is a bad trade practice that's happening in our country. So when we see the prices go up on gas, we need to really have a conversation about that, because we're getting scammed. We're getting scammed. And people say, oh, well, it's because well, we don't get any oil from over there. We don't get any oil from over there. So why is it hurting us? All of our contracts and our oil stuff is already accounted for. So why are our prices going up? Speculators. And people say, oh, well, it's because of the supply and demand of it all. Okay, I'd give you that. But we're talking about oil and gasoline that's already been processed, that's already here on our shores, and that for many accounts, especially with gasoline, is already in the containers that they have to store it at the different gas stations. So it's speculative price increases that are being done that are hurting the people. Now, I heard our governor here in New York State, who just says that she loves everybody so much, but clearly loves your tax money more than she actually cares about the prosperity of New Yorkers. Okay, so she got out there and did herself a little song and a dance talking about, oh, Trump's causing all of these issues with inflation and all of this prices with the gas and stuff like that. And Trump is a bad man. Listen, lady, I don't care about Trump because he's the president. You're my governor. You're in control of my state, right? My issues are with the federal government are largely from Congress, not the president. But my issues with the state are you're contingent in the state assembly and the state senate because you're all Democrats. You're supposed to run the Democrat Party. And all of you guys do is create more hard regulations for businesses, increase business taxes, make it more difficult to do business in New York State, and add tax on tax on tax on tax. And it was crazy because last year she said, oh, well, you know, we took a lot more in sales tax than we thought that we would. So we're going to give people checks back. Checks back? No, lady, don't give us checks back. Get rid of the sales tax. What's wrong with you? We don't want checks back. We want no sales tax. You understand? Like, this is crazy. Like, let me give you a middle obedience, okay, back so that you vote for me come November 2026. That's crazy. Instead of just getting rid of the state income tax or getting rid, I wish, dream of dreams, state income tax gone, but getting rid of the sales tax, right? Lowering the sales tax. Sales tax is roughly 8% in New York State, right? Make it 4%. Make it 2%, right? Make it something real good for us. Don't tell me, oh, well, you've raised more money than you thought you were going to do. You mean you stole more money than you thought you were going to get? That's what you're telling me. So lower the taxes. Same thing with the thruway, which always bothers me so bad. We got these tolls on the thruway. The tolls were supposed to be gone before I was born. You know, when the tolls originally got put up, they said, oh, we're only going to do the tolls for X amount of years because it's only going to be to pay for the building of it. They paid it off like 20, 30 years ago, 30 some years ago. Like, why are we still paying throughway taxes? But this lady gets up there, Kathy Hochul, she gets up there and says, oh, well, I care. And Trump's the bad person that's doing all these things to you. No, he's not. Look at the cost of food in New York State, right? We've got some of the greatest agriculture this side of the Mississippi in New York State, right? And what has the state assembly done? What has the state senate done? They've done everything that they can, and somebody mentioned ORES. They've done everything that they can to make it more difficult to own and operate your own farm, especially if it's a smaller scale farm. They've destroyed the beef farming industry in New York State. They've destroyed most of the agriculture in the industry in the New York State, and they're making it harder and harder every single day. They're closing up butcheries and small animal processing services. They're making it harder for them to do that. And that increases the price of meat, food, and meat, agriculture, and dairy. But can we have that conversation? Like, I feel like, you know, hey, it's just me talking and thinking out loud. But if you really cared, maybe you would relieve some of the burden on the agricultural industry if you got the audacity to talk about the price of food and goods. Just me. Just me thinking out loud. Because, I mean, that might just be too much like right. That might just be too much like right. And this is a serious, serious issue. So when we have this conversation, we have to understand that the majority of our problems are not from the president. They're from the state that we live in. You look at the Virginia, right? Right now, the Virginians got taken over by the Democrats in the last election in November. And now they're suffering from all types of new, crazy, and fantastical taxes that are automatic, that are all of a sudden coming out, right? So why is that happening? What is up with all these new taxes that they have now? This is a problem. This is a serious, serious problem. Now they're like, oh, woe is us for voting for these Democrats. The Democrats are taxing us too much. So this is a problem. And how come we can't have that conversation? That policies matter, that the policies that these people put into place and people don't understand what they do, but they sound good. That's what's causing us all the suffering, and that's part of the biggest issue. Now, somebody said that I need to go back to civics class because I don't know what I'm talking about. It's late stage capitalism. You have no clue what you're talking about. You're spitting talking points, but it really sounds good. It really sounds good what you're saying. Oh, well, this is the problem. That is the problem. Anything not to hold the people in political office that you associate with your personal beliefs accountable. You won't hold them accountable. I live in a Democrat city, in a Democrat county, in a Democrat state. There aren't any Republicans that could do anything if they wanted to. For almost 35 years, the Democrats have had a supermajority in the assembly, right? I think it's 30, 28, something like that. They've been the majority in the Senate for like the last 10, 15 years. So you explain to me where anybody else has anything to do, right? The Democrats are such heroes. Who is stopping them from doing actual good? It's clearly not this Albany. It's clearly not locally, because for 60 years, 57 years in my city, Rochester, it's been run by Democrats completely, not one Republican elected to office. So explain to me, like I'm 5 years old, make it real simple, how you can blame it on other parties or on capitalism when you out here carrying water for the Democrats. Maybe at some point, instead of saying, oh, well, it's the party, it's these parties, those parties, maybe the people that are in the power in the area, especially when they've been there for decades, should be held accountable, because perish the thought that we talk about accountability. Nonsense. Late stage capitalism, my black hindquarters. You understand what I'm saying? And when people say stuff like this, it gets frustrating, right? Because why does it get frustrating? Because these are the same people say, oh, well, we need socialism or we need communism or whatever. You mean that you want more government control. That's what you're saying. You're saying that the government is the solution to the problems that the government has created. Can you make that make sense? See, and this is the problem with all of these stooges out here running amok, talking about communism and socialism are the solutions. No, both of those are the same thing, which we've talked about at length before, but both of those empower the government more and more and more. The government is and always has been the problem. We were warned upon the foundations of our nation that we shouldn't let the government get too much power. That's why we have the Bill of Rights, but we still let the government go run and do whatever it wants and just erase the Bill of Rights whenever it wants to. Look at the Second Amendment in New York State, right? How many in the last, let's just call it 5 years, how many cases have gone to the federal Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, SCOTUS, have gone there and they were like, listen, these laws are illegal. What you're doing to the Second Amendment, it's wrong. They just they threw out the open carry denial in California, right? So they said open carry is part of your constitutional Second Amendment. So that just got thrown out. So you think that they're going to allow constitutional carry in New York State or California now because of that? No, because these people in the state government, largely in New York and California, since those are the examples I'm using, especially in the Second Amendment, because that it's usually these Democrat states that are stripping away the Second Amendment. But they're like, we're not going to do it, even though the Supreme Court of the United States of America said so. We do what we want. We don't care about the federal constitution, you know, and that's crazy because our governor, Kathy Hochul in New York State, has said that she doesn't care about the Constitution. She does what she wants. And that's wild to me. That's wild. Hit the like button, hit the heart button. It don't cost you nothing, and hit the share button. If you are not subscribed or following now, hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button real quick. You guys are listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear on WRFZ 106.3, WRFZ LP, Rochester Free Radio. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's get right back into it. If you want to support the station, you can go to Patreon and go to Rochester Free Radio, and you can donate to the station directly. It's got we're working on raising $6,000 for the station because we're supported by viewers like you. If you want to support the show directly and you're online, check out either side of the screen right there or down below, depending on which format you're looking at us in. Let's jump back into this. Okay, so yeah, now we're talking about accountability, and we're talking about policy, and we're talking about who needs to be held accountable for the terrible policies that are being implemented. Drink water, stay hydrated. So as we were talking about the Second Amendment things that keep getting overturned by the federal Supreme Court, and how the Californian government and how the New York State government are like, we do what we want. We don't care about what you're talking about. That's a problem. And that should show you right there why government is the problem. These same people that are in our government that you want to give more power because you love communism, because you love socialism, are the same ones that are stripping away our constitutional rights and liberties. And let's be clear, that is a problem. We were warned by George Washington. We were warned by, Samuel Adams. We were warned by Benjamin Franklin. We were warned by Thomas Jefferson, even though Thomas Jefferson was a little more in favor in giving the government some power. But we were warned by essentially all the founding fathers of what happens when the government gets too much power. But can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? Somebody says that they left New York State because of the red flag laws and stuff like that. That's a serious problem. Don't get me started on that, because the red flag laws are unconstitutional. But more than that, they're not just against the Second Amendment. It's a legal search and seizure, right? Like with the red flag laws, they don't take you to court to prove that you're wrong. You got to go to court to prove that you're right. That's crazy. So they just take your stuff without giving it back. No court case or nothing. And then you got to fight with the state. You understand what I'm saying? They tell you that you can't fight City Hall. It's even more difficult to fight the state. But still and yet, these socialists and so-called communists and American Marxists and all these other crazy fools are out here, and they want to empower the government because the government is the arbiter of all. Y'all sound crazy. And these are the same people that'll scream oppression, 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 this oppression, that oppression. What are you talking about oppression? Who do you think is implementing the oppression? The government, right? Like, who's dumb? Who's stupid? Like, you must be a couple of ice cubes short of a cup of lemonade. What's going on here? This is crazy. And people don't want you to talk about that, right? And this is the biggest issue, right? So somebody said earlier, I sound like a Republican, because I am a Republican, right? I am conservative constitutionalist, and I am a registered Republican, right? So I don't believe everything that the Republican Party does. There's a lot of people in there I don't like. I saw Nikki Haley on the TV. We'll get to her in a minute. I don't like her very much at all. That's a separate conversation we'll talk about in a minute. But when I see the Republicans do something that I don't like, I stand up against that. Like right now, we've got Maria Salazar. I don't even got a tissue to spit into, but she made me want to spit. Her and Mike Lawler, okay, I hope both of them lose their seats in this upcoming election. They need to be primaried out of there, but I don't think either of them have any primaries right now, okay? Because they're out here talking about, along with 18 other Republicans, that we need massive amnesty. They're trying to call it the Dignity Act, but it's not the Dignity Act. It's to bend Americans over and bang them up the bum with no lube. So this is what we're dealing with. And these are supposed to be Republicans. pushing for mass amnesty, Republicans, small government people, borders and national rights and stuff like that. That's supposed to be what they are. They're not that. They're self-interested loons. Okay? Crazy people that just care about the dollars in their bank accounts and staying in power. That's all that it is. That's all that it is. We'll get to some of the comments in a second, but I see them coming in. That's all that it is. Because we look at what's going to happen if they put in the Dignity Act, okay? If they put in the Dignity Act, which is a bogus name for it, okay? If they put that in effect, it'll basically give massive amnesty to over 10,000 illegal aliens in this country right now. Excuse me, 10 million. The Dignity Act will give 10 million illegal aliens amnesty in this country. Is that what we're doing? I want every single last one of them gone. I want all 10 million of them deported. You understand what I'm saying? What do you mean you want to give them mass amnesty? I don't want them here. And people say, oh, well, that's xenophobic or whatever. Ain't nobody scared of them. Ain't no phobia here. I'm being practical. We look at the way the economy is. Like, everybody likes to cry about the economy. Democrats, Republicans, everybody, right? Like, especially if you're in the lower class or you're in the working class, people like to cry about the economy, right? You think the economy is going to be better for you if you've got more competition working against you to get the few jobs that are out there? I was watching this guy right now. He was talking about, he says, I got a master's degree and I've applied for over 300 positions and I've only gotten 7 calls back. 7 calls back he's gotten. He's got a master's degree and he's only gotten 7 callbacks. And he said he's down to the point where he's trying to apply for places like Walmart and McDonald's because he can't get a job anywhere. But he's got his master's degree. So he's down there now, even though he's got a master's degree, he's on the bottom entry-level job floor trying to get some of the basic entry-level jobs. So you want to make another 10 million people that we got to compete with when the jobs keep getting less and less every year, when we know AI is taking more and more jobs, when we know automation is taking more and more jobs, you want us to have to compete with them? At the same time, we know that Social Security is going to be completely bankrupt in 6 years, and we need to talk about that. But whenever we talk about reforming Social Security or actually doing something about Social Security, people are like, oh, you want to take away Social Security, this, that, and the third. First of all, I don't care about no Social Security because I know all the money that I paid into the system, by the time I get there, there won't be no Social Security, especially if you add no daggone 10 million illegal aliens. What? Nonsense. Then on top of that, what it also does in this so-called fake Dignity Act is that it allows it to be easier for more people to come into this country and stay in this country. I don't want them to stay. I barely want them here. Like, we got more than enough people here to basically be self-sufficient in our own nation. We don't need nobody from no other countries. We definitely don't need them to come here. They said if they come to the U.S., and this is what is part of their bill, if they come to the U.S. and they get a STEM degree, then they can stay here. Says who? Who are you to say that? So I'm young enough to have fallen into 2 different demographics. They told us that, oh, you should learn how to program. Now all the programming jobs are gone, right? This is when I was real little. They said, oh, you should learn how to program. Then I get a little bigger. They should say, oh, well, you should learn STEM, right? You should learn STEM, because that's where all the jobs are. Where are those jobs? Where are all those STEM jobs that you promised, right? Like the guy said, he's got a master's degree. Why can't he find a job? He said 300 people he put out applications to, and he only got a call back from 7. And you're talking about, oh, we should be this. And then you're talking about these foreigners can come here, get a degree, and they can stay here. What? Again, you're creating more competition for our own Americans. Why would you do that? Why would you bust your own people upside their head when they're struggling just to make ends meet right now? So this is very serious. Somebody said, I'm going to die before I can pull from Social Security. But this is the problem. And like I said, Social Security, and I encourage you guys to go look into this, right? I tell people all the time, don't believe me because I'm saying it, believe me because I'm telling you. I'm going out of my way to tell you directly that this is the stuff going on. Go look it up, go verify it, okay? Social Security is looking to run out in another 6 years, roughly, right? So it was 2035. Now they're saying it looking more like 2032. Okay, I won't be anywhere near a thing. It won't even be what, not even half of retirement age by the time that comes around. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy. This is a serious issue. And they want to bring all of these illegal aliens and make them citizens. Like, what is going on here? How can we even be having that conversation? It's a serious thing. Somebody says, my wife holds an MBA and a BS in paralegal and still can't get a job in either. It's true. That's what's going on. People have whole serious degrees in very serious fields and still aren't able to get employed. So why would you create all of this artificial competition that is unnecessary for our own citizens? The only conclusion will be that these people that are pushing this Dignity Act, like Maria Salazar, like Mike Lawler, hate Americans. Them, the other 18 Republicans, and the 20 Democrats that are signed up for this nonsense. They hate America. They hate America. They hate Americans, and they don't like any of us, and they want us all to suffer. They want to put these people into our country so that they can keep us down. That's what it is. You want to talk about oppression? You want to talk about the government oppressing people? This is government oppression. This is what it looks like. The Dignity Act is nothing more than oppression by the politics people against the American citizens because they are favoring foreigners over our own people. Let's hit some of these other comments here. We got a ton of them rolling in. Hit the like button, drop some hearts, or even some American flags in the comments. Okay, hit the subscribe button and hit the follow so we can get this message out to more people. Somebody said the Democrats wrote Social Security back then when it was 1% of the people live past 65. And yep, that's true. That's what happened with Social Security. They never expected that many people to actually pull from it. And we have to be honest about Social Security. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme at the same time. The pyramid only works if there are more people on the bottom than there are on the top. The Ponzi scheme only works if there is more money that keeps coming into the fund. But the Democrats decided under Obama to raid the Social Security Trust, so then we couldn't even do that anymore. Do you think they ever put the money back in the Social Security Trust? Absolutely not. Drink water, stay hydrated. So this is the problem. When they took the money out of the Social Security Trust and it didn't go back in, essentially what it is a Social Security Trust is an investment account, right? That makes more money, so there's more money for Social Security. And when you take all the money out of the Social Security Trust or start taking money out of it, that means you've got less money that you can gain interest on, which means that then there's less money to go around. Then we also have the inversion of the pyramid itself, which is set up because what's happened is they've told everybody to kill their babies because it pays them well, right? That's what they've been telling us for decades. Kill your baby, abortion, 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 have an abortion, kill your baby, this, that, and the third. And people say, oh, well, abortion is a woman's right to choose. I'm not here to argue that with you. I'm not here to argue that with you. That is a very important topic to me. We can talk about that in another time. But when we talk about abortion and Social Security, I need you to understand that if there are not more youth in the marketplace working, then there are old people drawing off of Social Security. It is not a stable hierarchy. And then therefore there is not enough money being put into it, which means that it is going to collapse. And that is the point where we are now. You'll hear them say, oh, well, you know, we're not having enough babies. We're not having enough babies. Well, what do you mean we're not having enough babies? You put everything in plastic containers. You got rid of the glass. Okay, the plastic is causing all types of fertility issues. You're making sure that all of the females are on SSRIs. okay, all these antipsychotics and stuff like that, okay, which makes them either not want to have sex at all and not want to have children at all, or it makes them attracted to effeminate sissy boys. Like, can we talk about that? Then you've got all of the abortion chemicals and all of the, what do you call them? The birth control drugs and stuff like that going into the water system, which there is not one water system treatment plant in the US, as far as I know, that filters those things out of the water system. Okay. So if you were to go get a cup of water from your faucet right now and you were to test the water in your faucet for birth control, you'd have all types of birth control in there. That's the problem. And you're like, oh, well, why aren't people having enough babies? Because all of this is tied together. All of this has been done on purpose. Then we've got all of the different radio frequencies, everything, 5G, this, microwave, that, this, that, and the third, blase, blase, blah. Multi-fabric, multi-threaded fabric, polyester, and this and that and the third, and blah, 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 blah. Because, you know, cotton just wasn't good enough for the United States. We had to find a way to make things out of oil and plastic, which oil makes plastic, if you didn't know. Everything, all these crazy haters hating on oil must hate plastic when 98% of everything in the world is made out of plastic right now. But we can't have that conversation. But all of these different multi-fabric things, because cotton just wasn't good enough, you know, right? So, and then that causes issues with the ability to have children and stuff like that, and fertility. Then don't even talk about all of this stuff with the pesticides and stuff that they spray on the food. Can we have that conversation? No, they don't want you to. Which I'll chime this in. The EPA just said the other day that they're going to be looking into a lot of these chemicals and birth control things that are going in the water and how it's not being treated and not coming out of the water. And they said a couple of other things too, but we talked about that last episode. But yeah, so they're going to be working on that. I don't know if anything will ever happen or materialize off of that, but they're talking about doing something about it. So that's something, at least they're talking about it. I don't know if it's going to actually do anything, but that's a really, really important conversation. Somebody says, do you know that the Republicans have been stealing from Social Security? Where? What? How? Explain it to me like I'm 5. Make it real simple. Show me where, show me how. I've already said very much so before, even in this whole episode, the whole government is the problem. You're telling me something with an absence of evidence, okay? And I'm talking about stuff that I can show you actually in policy. So I have no clue what you're talking about. But these type of people do this type of stuff all the time. They want you to justify everything you're saying and prove everything that you're saying. There's a special word for that. It's called sea lioning. That's what it's called, sea lioning. Go look it up. You know, it's crazy that there's an actual word for that. And sea lioning is when you're making statements or you're making your case and people are like, oh, well, where's your evidence? Oh, well, you've got to prove this. You've got to prove that. And no matter how much information you give them, no matter how much you say, they try to say, oh, well, you got to prove yourself more. That's what these people are, sea lions. Okay, that's what this dude is over here. Might be a lady. I think it's a man, though. But who knows these days, you know? Anyway, so we got a whole bunch of stuff going back to this whole situation with the Social Security and it being about to be up. So these people want to let almost 11 million people have amnesty. It's the 10 million, then it's a whole bunch of other ones that are either working or have like different degrees that they've obtained in the United States. And this is a serious issue. We just aren't able to absorb that many people. We're not able to provide for the people that we have right now. Speaking of Social Security, I want to talk about the other social services. We look at SNAP. We look at other things like housing vouchers and what do you call it, HUD and stuff like that. You know, Section 8. We don't have enough for our own citizens, our own people. And people are still out there struggling with homelessness, foodlessness, and all of these things that we see every single day around us. And those aren't being addressed for our citizens, but you want to bring more competition to spread us even thinner. And we've seen it with all of these illegal aliens over here, especially in New York State. I don't know where you're from or where you're watching or listening from, but if you don't live in New York State or one of the states that gave all of these illegal aliens all this money, I don't know what to tell you. But just don't tell me that they're not getting money from the government, because they are. In my state, New York State, okay, they allocated $3.4 billion for illegal aliens in our state budget last year. That's just one set of funding, and that was specifically for them. It wasn't for new Americans. It wasn't for people that were coming over with visas. It was specifically for illegal aliens, not for the American people. And that's crazy, because that doesn't even include the other billions of dollars that they gave to New York City to shore up the housing and stuff for the illegal aliens. And it doesn't include anything in relation to the SNAP or the school programs and all of that they're giving for these illegal aliens, like the new pre-K and daycare that they're doing in New York City. That's for all these illegal aliens. Like, what do you mean? Why are we paying for them? Let their own country pay for them. Send them all back, drop them all out of plane, get them a parachute, and let the people go where they may. You know, like, this is serious. Like, we need to be looking out for our own. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's not happening. And just the other day, excuse me, I got to spit because it made me so disgusting. And just the other day, Chuck Schumer was talking about how, oh, well, you know, all of these illegal aliens, the way that they're doing the budget now, there won't be any money for them anymore. What did you just say, Chucky? There won't be any more money for the illegal aliens? I thought you told me that you weren't giving any money to the illegal aliens. What are you talking about? I can't stand that man, okay? But that's neither here nor there. The fact is that he finally spoke the truth out loud, and that's a conversation that people don't want to have. So somebody says, what's it say? Sorry, so many comments coming in at once. That looked like a good one. Let's see if I can find it. Somebody said your Republican dad voted to give them amnesty. Again, I don't know who you're talking about. You got to really be more specific. And nobody that I know voted for amnesty for anybody. So if we're talking about what's happened previously, this, that, and the third, when it goes back in history, I'm not talking about historically. I'm talking about what's going on right now and the issues that it's causing and the issues that it will indelibly leave on our nation. So that's what I'm talking about. So if you're talking about something, we're talking about the immediate present, and we're talking about what's coming forward in the future. Somebody said, give them a parachute. You know, somebody told me the other day we should just not even give them a parachute. I was like, that's cold-blooded. Oh, somebody's talking about George Bush, I guess the Bushes. And does that say Washington? You know, you got to be clearer with your comments, because I get so many comments. I'm just going to have to overlook it. Somebody said Obama. So, but this is what we're having a conversation about right now, is the Social Security and the strain on social services that these illegal aliens are bringing, and how much more serious it's going to get if this amnesty thing gets passed that they're calling the dignity bill, right? So the issues with the public assistance is not only that, look at all of the fraud that we just saw going through Minnesota, or the fraud that we just saw in California with all of the healthcare agencies, or the what do you call them, the daycares, or the hospices, or the what do they have? The ones in New York City where they have the adult elderly living centers. And essentially what they are is they're like day centers for adults, right? Like, so it's like Boys and Girls Club for elderly, right? Like social centers or stuff like that. In New York City, none that are open. All of that's fraud, okay, to the tune of millions and billions of dollars. That's a serious conversation. What are we doing about that? And largely that's operated by the Chinese. You got the Chinese in California and what do you call them? The Eastern Europeans in California out there operating most of the corruption out there. Then you got the ones in Minnesota, all the Somalis, you know? And that doesn't mean that there aren't other people out there. That just means that there are large groups of those individuals that are out there that are doing this. So this is very, 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 very serious. And we need to have these conversations. But it's scary because people would like to try to cop out and say, oh, well, this isn't an issue. That's not an issue, whatever, whatever, whatever. Okay, it might not be an issue for you personally, directly, but it doesn't mean that it's not an issue for all of the rest of us. And it doesn't mean that it's not a very serious thing that we should be talking about. And that's really, really, really the biggest issue. Now, I do want to go back. Is this the one that I was looking for? Yep. So here's one. This is a good one. I can't read it because the screen is too small or whatever the case is. Let's see. It says Planned Parenthood was put on the Black communities because Democrats wanted to kill Black babies to control the population. Now, this is well known and this is well documented. But they don't want you to talk about that when you talk about abortion and you talk about Planned Parenthood, or you talk about the founder of Planned Parenthood, who was Margaret Sanger, who not only said openly that she wanted to push and promote abortion because she wanted to get rid of the Black race. Her husband went down in Puerto Rico and did horrible, terrible testing on the Puerto Rican women down there, okay, causing sterilization of thousands of Puerto Rican women intentionally, not even letting them know. So this is what goes on when we talk about abortion, right? Like, and again, I'm not debating with you whether or not abortion is a good thing or should be stopped or anything like that, because abortion is murder straight up. If you are okay with murdering an innocent life that has done nothing, that is something on your personal soul that you are going to have to take. May you be judged for that, okay? Because that's crazy, wild. That is so many people's defenses. I can't get behind that. But if you believe that murdering an innocent life is your prerogative, that's what you believe. Just don't try to sell me any other lies surrounding it. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Oh, what about this? Oh, what? No, I'm not trying to hear none of that. You like to kill innocent people. I got you. That's all. Now, when we talk about the conversation that we're having here, because it's not about abortion, it's about the fact that they promoted abortion, which killed off, I think we're at something like, since Roe versus Wade first went in place, something like 70 million almost babies murdered. 70 million? What do we got? A population of 320 million maybe? So if all of those babies were murdered, how much more people would we have that have been born, right? If you think, just take half of that, right? Say maybe 25 million people had babies. You say just divvy it up, 25 million, each one had one. And then you're talking about another 25 million people, right? But we're talking about for decades, this has been going on. So how much more children? Because children happen exponentially, right? Because two people have 2 or 3 people, or whatever the case is. How much more could we have had as far as population goes? This is a very serious conversation, and it's very much so worth being had. We need to make sure and understand that we need more people. Like, that's it. We need more children. We need more American children, like real Americans, not these foreigners that come over here, have these anchor babies, or they rent a womb and they buy a baby. Like, that's a whole nother conversation. The Chinese are doing that something fierce here. So are the Indians, which is weird because the Indians haven't traditionally done that because they just got so many people already. But that's a little bit of weird thing that I'm starting to see from them. All right. That's something at some point somebody should look into that. I don't know what's going on with them, but I don't think I trust them too much. But the Chinese are doing that. And that's a serious problem. That is a serious, serious problem. And we've got the birth tourism, right? Like, people get pregnant, then they come over here and then they have babies, and now they're citizens, and now they try to bring all of their rest of their family over because it's an anchor baby, right? And this is what the problem is. And we need to have these conversations because none of it is actually benefiting the American people. How is that benefiting the American people? That's not benefiting you. That's not benefiting me. They don't share our values. They don't share our heritage. They don't share our lineage. They don't share any of that. They don't share any of that. And I very firmly believe that nobody should be in any sort of a public office if they are not at least third generation American, because they need some ties to this land. They need to understand how our American collective culture is. And all of these people out here promoting all of this nonsense, oh, well, it's the differences are our strengths. You're an idiot. You're an absolute fool, crackpot. Okay, differences are our strength. You sound retarded. Okay, no. What do you call it? I'm pronouncing it wrong. Homogeny. Homogeneous. There's another word that's similar to that I'm looking for. It's not coming out of my head right now. But homogeneity, that's close enough. You know, that's what we need. We need people that more so share the same type of culture, share the same sort of thoughts and stuff like that. We need more of that. One collective culture for our nation. That's what we need. That's good. That's important. That's how the Chinese became so strong after the whole division and sick man of Asia nonsense that they had going on over there. It's also how they united Japan, Japan became united. You know what I'm saying? It's also how all these other countries and stuff like that built empires and stuff like that became united. Look at the different smaller states that used to be part of England. You know, all of them, even though they're very diverse, they very much so share a similar culture, even though now that's all being erased because they're importing all of these people from the sand countries and from Africa. It's crazy. And that's a serious issue now. But we need to have these important conversations because, you know, it's really, really problematic because people don't want to have those conversations because they feel like, oh, well, if I say something, somebody will judge me, or you don't have any place to make a judgment on it. Who are you to tell me what I should and shouldn't do? Right? Isn't that what you're telling me? That I shouldn't make a decision for myself and make my own standpoint and believe what I believe, but you can believe what you believe. Who's stupid? You're stupid. Okay. So that's ridiculous. Somebody said something about 40 acres and a mule. I guess I missed wherever that part of the conversation is coming from. But that should be another part of the conversation. And we'll get back to some of these other conversations in a second. But that 40 acres and a mule, you guys, hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Hit subscribe and hit follow. Okay? But here's the deal with that. The 40 acres and a mule came from General Tecumseh Sherman. That was put out. I want to say it was General Order number 2. Don't quote me on the order number, but go look that up. That was during the March to the Sea, okay, where they gave all of the former enslaved peoples, they were giving them land and territory that was taken over from the South when the war was going on. So then they had, was it Andrew Johnson or Andrew Jackson? I always mix those two up because they're so close together. I believe it was Andrew Johnson, okay, who did the Reconstruction. And again, Democrats, they got rid of the 40 acres and a mule thing. That was a real thing, you guys. There really were reparations that went out from the Republicans. That's why when we have this conversation in relation to reparations, I always tell the Republicans, we need to be on top of this. We need to be owning this conversation because it's something that we promised. It was something that we implemented, and it was something that the Democrats took away. You know? And there is nobody in this country more American than Black Americans. And you'll say, well, Marcus, what about these people, those people? No. Let me explain. There's nobody more American than Black Americans, simply put, because we don't have any other land. Black Americans only have America. We don't have any ties to Africa or lineage in Africa. You can't tell us that we're from any part of Africa, even though people say, oh, well, you should take a DNA test and shut up. Don't be stupid. Everybody's from Africa at the end of the day. Isn't that what they say? So even the Scottish, you should tell them they're from Africa. Go back to Africa, right? But anyway, again, Black Americans, we only have this land. You know, they say, oh, well, Black Americans built this land. That is very true. In the first manner and in the second manner, especially after the Reconstruction, when Blacks went to the Northeast and around where what we now have is the Rust Belt, but used to be the Industrial Belt, okay, and did all the jobs and built all of the buildings and stuff like that. Okay, so that is true. But there's no more integrated than Black Americans. And what do they try to do to Black Americans? And this is the important part, so hold tight, don't drop off. The important part is look at how they do Black Americans. All we know is this land. All we have is this land. And what do? Consistently try to beat us down and try to erase us, right? They try to erase our lineage. They try to erase our heritage. They try to erase the richness of endeavors and innovation and things that we have done in this nation to tell us that we are not just disadvantaged, but we are oppressed. And that's what they tell us. You know, so when you look and you say, oh, well, that's what they're saying to Black Americans, well, it's no wonder why they beat up on the white Americans the way that they do too, right? Because if Black Americans only have America, and now the white Americans are not WASPs anymore, it's not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, okay? It's everybody, right? Italians, the Irish, Scottish, the everybody that looks pale, right, is considered white. Even the Spanish people are considered white, right? So you look at how they do Black Americans, and then you wonder why they do white people the way that they do. Because y'all let them get away with it with Black Americans. And now you've got people out here telling us that, oh, well, if you're a heritage American, you're not more American than everybody else. Why are they saying that? Why are they putting that out there? Because these same people are the people that want to bring all of these foreigners and illegals here and stuff like that and promote the disambiguation of what is America. They want to strip America of its Americanness. I just made that up, but that's the way that the word works now, isn't it? Okay, so that's what they want to do. They want to strip America of its Americanness. You know, no more apple pie, no more baseball. You know, they don't want any of that. Which we could talk about apple pie or baseball and how baseball has been going away for some time, or how the Bible is integral to the United States of America and how they're trying to do everything to take that out of everything. And they're trying to make it so that you don't actually preach the gospel or anything like that. Again, all of this stuff is roots that are buried deep within the foundation of our nation that they're continuing to try to erase and chop up and destroy because they hate America. These people hate America. They only care about themselves. They only care about power, and they only care about self-righteousness. Okay? And it's the lot of them, right? So it's not just the people, the crazy socialists out on the street or the communists or the left. It's also a large number of an amount of the people that are in politics, period. That are in politics, period. Because they don't care about the American people. They care about themselves. They care about their own bank accounts. They care about their own families and stuff like that. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing, and it helps the algorithm. Drop a comment, hit share, and hit subscribe, okay? Or follow, depending on what platform you're on. So let's get back to the conversation about reparations and about the Reconstruction. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear about that, and they're like, well, we don't want to talk about that because that's not right, and I'm white and I didn't ever own any slaves. Listen, you're missing the important part of the conversation. The important part of that conversation is reparations are something that were promised by the Republican Party. The Republican Party actually implemented reparations, and then the Democrats during the Reconstruction got rid of the reparations and stole all of the stuff from the people and didn't finish distributing it. Then we could go in and we could talk about the Homestead Act and other things in relation to that, but that's a longer conversation and not the point I want to make today. But I want to touch on that because what's happening with the conversation on reparations today? Now we've got all of these people out here talking about, oh, well, we want reparations for the Caribbeans and the alphabet people. And reparations shouldn't just be for Black Americans. Hold on. What do you mean reparations shouldn't just be for Black Americans, that it should be for Caribbeans that have nothing to do with the history or foundation of America? What do you mean that reparations should be given to alphabet people? What do alphabet people even have any conversation in the conversation of reparations? Now, and I bring this into perspective because when we talk about the reparations, what's being done with reparations is the same thing that they always do to the Black community. They always use the Black community as a Trojan horse. Whatever we're fighting for, maybe it's civil rights, maybe it's better education, maybe it's better water treatment plants, whatever it is that we're fighting for as Americans, as American citizens, as Black Americans, the left and the evil tries to latch on to what we're doing and push their own agenda. like alphabetism. How is all of the when we talk there's the Urban League in Rochester where I live right now, and they've got a thing they do called Interrupt Racism. I got a lot to say about it. Not going to talk about it the way I want to today, but they've got a thing that's called Interrupt Racism, right? And they're talking about, oh well, we're doing a special thing on alphabet people. What do alphabet people have to do with racism? Nothing. Nothing. Alphabet people aren't a race. What are you talking about? So disrespectful. And Urban League, if you know anything about Urban League leans towards Black American focus. At least that's supposed to be their focus, which is a whole nother conversation. Okay, but they're talking about alphabetism and interrupt racism. What does that have to? Nothing. Zero. Again, using Black people as a Trojan horse to push this agenda that's not only anti-American, again, because this is when they're anti-Black, they're anti-American. I'm trying to tell you, you got to connect the dots here, people. Okay, it's not what you think. They try to make it like it's Black or like it's white. It's not. It's all about anti-American and anti-God. So you're usually going to run into whatever the aspect of it is that's being pushed that's not good. It's either going to be anti-American or anti-God. And this is what happens. And they bring Black people in as a Trojan horse to try to push their own nonsense. Like the reparations conversation is supposed to be for Black Americans. Now you're telling me you're going to give it to Caribbeans and all these foreigners? Not near one Black American want to give nothing to no foreigners. Okay, you want to talk about some people that don't like no foreigners, that don't want no foreigners from other countries? Black people. Why? Because we are super, ultra, uber American. Because again, like I said, we ain't got nowhere else. This is our heritage. This is our lineage. This is our birthright. So you really have to look at it when they are beating down on Black Americans. It's because not just because they don't like the color of our skin. It's because they hate what we stand for, which is America. Which is America. Because that's all we got. That's all we've ever had. And that's something that needs to be noted. Somebody said, I'm from Sweden, but what's going on there? Yeah, that's a serious thing over there. And when we talk about what's going on with this push for them to say, oh, well, everybody should get reparations and this and that now. Why are they doing that? Why is it happening now? Like we were talking about earlier, all of the social services are overwhelmed. All of the Social Security is about ran out. Another 6 years if you're just tuning in. And why are they pushing this all of a sudden? Because they're trying to push universal basic income. Excuse me. And I've talked about this before. Originally, I was in favor conceptually of universal basic income, right? Years ago. But then I saw what the government started to do around the concept of universal basic income. And even though we have this nonsense that's going on with the, how can I explain it? That even though we have all this nonsense going on where they're trying to push all of this AI and automation and stuff like that, we're not going to have enough jobs to support everybody. We already talked about that. They're not having enough kids. They're not having enough of the people that are going to be able to have jobs. We're not having enough of any of that. So then what's going to end up happening? What's going to end up happening is that we're going to have no choice, because either we're going to have a massive amount of the population that has no jobs because Americans have no wealth. We don't have homes. Everything is taxed to death. So you can own your own home. You can own your own this. You can own your own that. You got to register this. You got to pay the re-registration for that. You got to update this. You got to pay the taxes and pay the insurance on that. You never really own anything in America anymore. And that's part of the real serious issue. Drop some American flags in the comments, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button. It don't cost you nothing. And drop some comments down there. I'll try to put them up there. Okay, because we got a lot coming in and I'm going to try to get to most of them. Now, as we have this conversation about what they're doing and the bastardization of universal basic income, I need you to understand that all of this is a play against our nation. It's all against our nation. We need it, but the reason why they're trying to push it for everybody now is because they don't even want universal basic income, because the universal basic income is supposed to be for everybody. Everybody. What they want is GBI now. They done made up a whole new term. GBI, right? What the heck is GBI? Okay, guaranteed basic income. Well, why isn't it universal basic income, right? They like to scream universal health care all the time. Well, why isn't it universal? See, these are the conversations that we need to have. Because all it is them trying to find a new way to control the people even more and even further. And to that note, I'll point out how earlier I was talking to somebody about the energy situation in New York State and how they're purposefully making the energy more and more expensive because cheap energy helps the working class and helps those in poverty. And people don't understand that. And they're like, oh, and some people, especially on the left or on in the Marxist categories and stuff like that, or to save the planet, save the whales people, okay, they always say, oh, well, the solar panels this and the solar panels that. Okay, I hear you. I completely disagree with you, but you have to ask yourself, why is New York State shutting down energy plants if they don't have enough capacity to actually offset what they've shut down? They shut down nuclear plants. They shut down natural gas plants, which, by the way, you guys, we get over 50, 52, 53% of our electricity in New York State comes from natural gas. And we have an abundance of natural gas in New York State, but they're shutting down natural gas plants, and they've forced all of the permits for natural gas drilling in New York State are essentially stopped completely. So can we have that conversation? Why are they doing that? It's about power and control. And it's because they hate you. They hate America. They hate Americans. They hate our way of life. They hate that we have a little bit of independence, that we have a little bit of freedom. What did Mandani say? He wants to get rid of the rugged individualism. They're telling you exactly what they want to do. They hate you. You got to wake up. I can only tell you what they're saying in their own words. Because they're what they said, when somebody tells you who they are or shows you who they are, really believe them the first time. So it's crazy, which is also the reason why I don't watch Hulu, because if you guys know Hulu, originally their first the first commercials that came out for Hulu said it was an evil alien plot to destroy the world. And they said, well, what are you going to do? It's not like you're going to turn off your phone and your computer. I said, wow. I said, I'm never watching Hulu. And this was years ago when Alec Baldwin used to do the commercials and stuff for them. And they did it for the Super Bowl and stuff. I was like, I can never watch them. Why? Because they've already told me exactly what they're about. Right? Like they're telling you it's an evil alien plot to destroy the world. And then people are like, oh, well, that's over the top. They don't really mean it. It's a joke. It's a this, it's a that. How do I know that they don't mean it? They just said it on the TV, and you might think that it's a joke. They didn't say it as a joke. There wasn't any subtitle underneath the thing that says, this is a joke. It's a fictition. They said it like it was a truth. They might have made it a little, like a little more animated as far as boisterous, a little bit of hyperbole in there, but they said that. Why am I not going to believe them when they say it? Because now they say, oh, well, our programming kind of softens your brain and it distracts you from everyday life and stuff like that. And it doesn't completely rot your brain. It just softens it and makes it more impressionable and stuff like that. Like, this is what their commercial said. You can't ever mess with them because they done told me what they're about. And I equate that to exactly what's going on right now with these communists and with these socialists and with these leftist Democrats. And it's people don't want to have these serious conversations. Now, you explain to me how Republicans started with the reparations, the Democrats got rid of reparations, and now Republicans are letting Democrats run the conversation in relation to reparations and don't even want to have part of the conversation. Make it make sense? I don't know. These people out here scary. They so scary, they scared of their own shadow. They won't do nothing. That's why right now we need the SAVE Act passed, and they're not doing that. And we wouldn't even need the SAVE Act passed if they'd actually enforce the Constitution. Perish the thought that we actually have elected officials that stand up for the Constitution. Ridiculous nonsense. But are they passing it? Where's the SAVE? Why isn't the SAVE Act passed yet? What's going on? We already know that all the Democrats hate Americans. We've already established that. So where are all the Republicans? This is the problem. Weak Republicans, and then we've got the other people, the elite establishment Republicans and stuff like that. And the, what do you call them? the technopathocracy, which is a good term. I don't know if that's a real word. I might have coined that term. I'm probably the first person to really coin the term technopathocracy. Technocracy is the people where if there's one group in power, the group that's in power are supposed to be the proverbial experts of everything. And a pathocracy is where you get all these crazy people that only think about themselves and are essentially psychopaths that are running the government. So that's where we are. We've got a technopathocracy. Okay, that's what's going on right now in our country. And it's a serious problem because at the top of the pyramid, like I say all the time, it is both sides. It just so happens down at the lower end, we've got a lot of the Republican philosophies that are still essentially the original Republican and conservative philosophies going around, and people believe in them still. But at the higher level, man, please. Listen, we had Nikki Haley get on the TV the other day talking about, oh, yeah, she was just on CNN yesterday. Oh, yeah, you should vote for J.D. Vance in 2028. Shit, I'm not voting for no J.D. Vance. I ain't never liked J.D. Vance. Okay, you crazy. He's a technocrat. And again, this goes into this what do I call it? Technopathology, technopathocracy, excuse me. That's what we've got. That's the type of government we got. These people that claim that they're the experts, but they're not really experts. They're experts in F all, you know, and that claim that they know so much better than you. And because they know so much better than you, they should run everything and they should do everything. I don't mess with that. Okay. J.D. Vance, Vic Ramaswamy, they're all in it together. They're all tied to all of these companies in Silicon Valley. And we know how Silicon Valley hates the everyday Americans. Mark Zuckerberg, the rest of them, the George Soros is, the, what do you call the guys? What's his name? The Democrat, I'm missing his name. Anyway, it's like 4 or 5 different Democrats that are also in bed with all these people. Newsom, there we go. Thank you. Yep, Newsom. Newsom and a ton of other ones that are Democrats and stuff like that. And even the people outside, like the PayPal mafia, and we talk about them all the time. And I talk about them because I'm trying to warn you, you got to wake up. Okay. We got the PayPal mafia. All of them are South African, right? Then they bring over 180 South Africans. What is it? Okay, but you're telling me that the South Africans are getting beat, battered, and killed, and only 180 or almost, not even, come over here? Who are you really bringing over here? What was that really about? We need to have a conversation. It reminds me of Operation Paperclip when they brought all of the Nazis and the Nazi scientists over from Germany after World War II. You look into that if you're not familiar with that. It's the same thing as the same situation with South Africa. If you don't know, they're Nazis, okay? Look into the National Party of South Africa and you'll understand more. Really dig into that, okay? And dig into their ties with the Nazis. But yeah, see, this is a serious issue. We need to. Somebody said Project Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, but Project Paperclip. You'll find it all the same. Is exactly what this is. This is like a new version of that, and we need to protect our country. You know, and people are like, oh, well, you don't like foreigners or whatever. I don't care what you say I don't like or do like. I tell you who I do like. I like Americans. I like America. I love my country. I love my people. Okay. And I could give a flying monkey's uncle about anybody else out there in another country. Okay. If Zimbabwe disappeared into the bottom of the ocean tomorrow, I wouldn't even know. Yes, I know that Zimbabwe is on land and it's probably can't fall into the ocean, but you get what I'm saying. You understand? If Belarus fell into the ocean, I wouldn't know. It wouldn't make me none. No, never mind. I care about Americans. I care about American citizens. And anybody that comes over here to America needs to be in love with America, its culture, our people, our way of life. And they're not. All of these people that are coming over here now, we've got all of these people want to remake our country into their image. They want to live like they're in their country over here. We don't want that. And if you like that so much, go back to your country. Go back there. We don't want it. I do like Chip Roy too. Chip Roy's good. Okay. But we don't want that here. Take that nonsense back to your country. Now, to bring this all full circle before we get out of here for the day, and I hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It don't cost you nothing. Drop some comments and some thumbs up. That helps a lot. But as we were talking about Iran in the beginning and the blockade that Trump is now doing because he's the captain now, I just find that too funny, you know. But He's doing a blockade of Iran right now because Iran was blockading the Strait. So he said, well, you're going to do a blockade? I'm going to do a blockade. So this benefits the United States because we're doing so much drilling for oil and gas in the United States right now. Now we're selling it to the worldwide. We're becoming a worldwide supplier. Before this happened, we were one of the largest suppliers of oil and natural gas in the world. Now we are the largest supplier of oil and natural gas. And if we actually invest more into oil refineries in this nation, they just authorized one to be built, I think like the first one in 50 years or something like that, down in Texas, okay? If we authorize more refineries, then we can lower the price of gasoline and oil and propane and butane and all these other products that we need here, even plastics, right? Because all of that has to get processed. In New York State, I always complained to Kathy, she talks such a big game, the governor. If she really cared, she'd push to restart a refinery here. We'd probably have to rebuild it because all of the refineries are torn down. I think the last refinery we had open in New York State was like in the 80s. So we need new oil refineries. We need all of our stuff here in the US. So this blockade just shows us how important it is to actually manage our own stuff here at home first and focus on our own stuff here at home first. Some of these oil and natural gas companies are about to make a beautiful buck, okay? But the American people, not so much, because we don't have enough natural gas capacity or oil capacity or refinement capacity in the US. We also have the Jones Act, which prevents us from having ships that are from foreign flag to deliver stuff at other ports that are in America. So if that's the case, we need to build more ships. Why aren't we building more ships? What's going on with that? That's a good job. People can do those jobs. You know, there used to be shipbuilders and stuff like that. Why don't we put a push for that instead of for STEM and all of this other nonsense and the programming and stuff, which clearly isn't here, which I'm sure at some point ship automation will get, building will get automated, but we should be doing that. We need it. The transport of goods and stuff like that, because that's not only locally and inside our nation, that's also domestically, I should say, that's also international stuff that we should be doing. There's all types of advantage that we can get under this administration because of what they're doing. And people are like, oh man, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. Listen, there's a lot of policies. Like I just said, I don't like anything that they're doing with Palantir, which like they're doing the reauthorization of one of the Palantir programs that's called SNAP. Please go look into that. I don't have time to explain it. So Palantir program, it's for the IRS. It's called SNAP. It's big, big bad. Okay, they're trying to reauthorize it today. I didn't realize that was happening. I found that out last night. But anyway, if you're listening online, hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. I got to get ready to get out of here for the day. Stay tuned. We got some other shows coming up, and you'll see some more of my shows if you're on my YouTube or my Facebook. You guys be blessed and be well. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. All right, everybody online. I love you guys, and we do need to have these conversations. They are ever so important. So if you want to support my work in the show, on either side right here, you can see you can do PayPal. We've got PayPal. We've got it's MW Real One, $MW Real One. If you want to drop something on PayPal, if you want to drop something, if you want to drop something on Cash App, if you want to do PayPal or Venmo, it's at Marcus C. Williams. And I appreciate anything you would do to help out the show and help out what we're doing. Because airtime isn't free, and we're trying to do more so that we can get the word out there more. We will be doing some more episodes. The Elephant in the Room, my other show, where we do the interviews and we really dig in deeper into stuff that's going on, is coming back soon. It'll be back the week after next, so stay tuned for that. And I'll catch up with you guys soon. Be blessed and be well.